Big letters.
You're the resident artist. Yeah. What about the logo for us?
Goose podcast. No, wait, that's correct. Presents.
I'll get my big head out of the way.
Yes. There was supposed to be like a bingo ball. Yeah. That was a little disappointed.
Yeah. All right.
If you would have made it, we would have figured it out. She would have made it, we would have figured it out.
So we're waiting on it. Oh,
She's here.
all right. We wanted to wait on Alex because this is actually a gift to Alex for her job. Good afternoon again, everybody. We're now presenting a group project. We did something a little different than, historically the developer track gives the opportunity for developers to present individual projects. We are a pretty tight group of guys. It was a small group. Just in the first couple of weeks, we all bonded pretty well, and we had this comfort level, and also to accept another challenge instead of just the job finder. We wanted to actually come together and show the group spirit, the team spirit that we could come up with and actually create a group project. So what we did is we remember in the first couple of weeks, Alex came in and gave us a survey, which we passed out some examples. And what it is, it's the demographics survey. And what this, we all kind of looked at each other afterwards, and it hit us. We just actually received a piece of paper in school that's teaching us to do everything on computers, and we had to write this out with a pen. I haven't used a pen for a while, so this should be a keyboard. So what we did is we decided, why don't we make a collaborative effort? Let's make a web application for this. Let's make a web application where students, when they come to school here at Centriq, they can log in to a web page that looks like this. They can answer these questions. They can submit the answers to these questions, and then give Alex the ability to do the reporting similar to what she does now, but hopefully, in an easier way. She should be able to log into this thing and pull up a reporting page, see the data however she wants at that point. It's going to be in PDF format, so she can print it out, things like that. So just making life easier and saving some trees. So, Tyler, if you want to bring up what we've got going.
And we met a number of times outside of class. Marcus had us over to his home, a couple work sessions. We started meeting on lunch regularly on Fridays to kind of discuss different aspects of the project.
All right. I'm going to kick this thing off because what we did is we got together and decided, you know what, we're going to split responsibility. We all have our strengths. Let's play on them. Me, I had a background in art. I like the front-end design. I'm the front-end guy. I got to design the page. What was important to me is this was our group project. It was going to have our name on it. We weren't going to go out and pull a template from anywhere. We're going to create it from scratch. So all the divs and the image work you see here, even the Centriq Smart Kit, it's all redesigned. I did it all. Just using that free program, paint.net, actually. So just got in and did this. We wanted to try to take from the TechSmart KC side, but it was too small. It was getting really pixelized when we blew it up. So I actually went out and tried to find some very similar font and recreated it and copied it in. Used some of the orange colors, color picked them directly off the Centriq site, and did some gradient images with that. We've got a drop-down list here where you'll be able to select what class you're in, whether you're a developer or network admin, just like we can do in the metrics that matter survey that we take at the end of the week after classes. Alex will have a login here. And then the questions, Tyler, if you kind of scroll through the questions, the way you answer is very similar to the form. Checkbox list. Now, in the future, but stop, right? If you click this other box, a text box is going to pop up. This is if you select it, please explain here. That's an Ajax watermark. That'll disappear as soon as you start typing. Right now, the code isn't 100% to get that to work, so the text box is currently visible. So, but pretty soon here in the future, as soon as you click this other text box, that is going to pop up for you to put in the other information that isn't part of the checklist. As you go through the questions, there's already text boxes. for you to submit your answers, checkbox list. And here, we understood that there was a problem. Go down a little bit more. Let's get both of these. All right. We understood that there was a problem with some of the students, how they answered these ranking questions, like they didn't fully understand how to answer the questions. So we kind of made it where you don't really have a choice now. You have to select these answers from a drop-down list. And that drop-down list is ranked first in importance. This next drop-down list ranked second in importance. These are going to have custom validators, so the students can't actually select a answer more than one time. So you won't be able to have interesting computers and technology ranked first and also ranked fourth. That won't be possible. There's custom validators that are going to get plugged in right there. Again, since there was another option in these rankings, you're going to have another text box. Let's drop down again, Tyler. Same thing. Question 5 was the exact same thing. I guess there was some issues with the way not everybody understood how to answer those questions. So now you're kind of forced to answer it exactly with the information that marketing needed. All right, and if you scroll through, I think there's what, 10, 11 questions. And to mark your age range, I mean, it's either or. So this is just a radio button list. Radio button list there, so there's no way to actually answer more than one age range there. Zip code's got validators on it. All the answers are all validated. You can't really submit without without filling everything out. We have a custom validator summary that'll pop up below the zip code area. So if you forgot to answer something as you're going down this page, it's going to pop up with validation and let you know what you left out, so you can go back up and continue to fill that back out. Submit button, it doesn't really look fancy right now because honestly we just put it in last night. So this will probably look a little bit better by the time this rolls out. We can fill out let's do a survey real quick.
We want to talk about the naming.
Yeah, we'll go into talking while you guys are talking.
Well, she can fill it out.
I'll fill it out.
All right.
All right. So for the database, we didn't know for sure if they were ever going to want other questions than what was on the survey initially. So that led to a couple problems. If we did just the questions as their own tables, like questions with possible answers in one table, that would not be good. So we have a questions table, and in addition to the questions table, we have the possible answers table, which has every possible answer for every possible question in the database, which get added programmatically. The actual answers are in your responses fixed. So if they pick, say, other on one of the responses, that goes into responses open in its own ID. The student automatically gets generated when you click submit, but the student has to have a class, and the class has to have a track.
And the class, each class here at Centriq is identified by its start date. So the start date, there's a field for class start date. The track is either network administration or app development, and there is a space to status there. So if one day there are no more network developers, because the app people are never going to go away because we're awesome. So if they want to take those away, you can make it. You can change the status to not active, and then that won't be involved anymore. Or if they decide to add another some kind of track, you can add it at that point. And same thing with class, you can just add the new start dates as they go along.
As Marcus was just scrolling through at the top, in that drop-down list, we have the student ID and not the student ID, the class ID, which is the date, and the track ID, concatenated into one drop-down list. So we have both values within that drop-down list, and we can get access to either one.
And the data source that's pulling from will have a where clause, so that we'll take that only the active classes. So if Alex wants to just go back and say, okay, take the only classes that will show up will be people who are about to take the survey, so that when the people go to come onto the page, and they don't have to go through 20 different lists of class to try to find theirs, there might only be 2 there. It doesn't affect anything on the reporting. It just makes it a little bit easier for to find their class. So, you have anything filled out?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
It's a duplicate form.
What?
Duplicate form.
Yeah, see, if we had the validators active, we wouldn't be able to do that, but
Yeah.
they are not yet.
And when it comes up the front, I can talk about when he hits the submit button, what's going to happen. So if you go back up to the top, except now that it's gone. So I'll just kind of go by memory. No, thanks. What happens when you hit submit is first thing the code does is kind of like the code that I had we had in the file upload. Use some AJAX to go out to the student table and find out what the next student ID is going to be, and then combine it with the class and the track. And the first thing that happens is that gets loaded through Connected SQL into the database. So that student ID then can be used to fill out the responses fixed and responses open table. So we used connected architecture for all of this, opened up a connection to the database. For the checkbox list, we used a for each loop to loop through, see if the box was checked. If it was, that value was put into the database. Each of the other boxes are actually their own question. So it's not, this is question 1, this is actually the database question 2. Question 2 is the other box that relates to question 1. So there's an if clause that says if there is anything in this box that is typed in, if it's not an empty string, then whatever text is in here is input into the responses other database. And then the rest of them just goes through and it just takes the text from the text boxes, the drop-down list, the values, goes through each one, puts them into the database. The code was written with parameters and the value added to the parameters to have hard-coded to what the question number is, and then taking the value or the text, it gets input all to the database, and then there's a multi-view. So when you hit the button, all of that happens. Like I said, the first thing that happens is the student is created, and then all the answers are put into those 2 tables, and there's multi-view, which switches to say that take your survey.
Where's your recording?
Move on over to the other section, please.
Do you have any admin functionality built in yet?
Well, we're getting there.
We're going to talk about that here in a second.
There will be a page that will have a grid view that will have all the classes listed and a change status button, so that all you have to do as an admin to change status from active to inactive is just click the link and that class is inactive, so it doesn't show up in the drop-down list. There will also be a button to say create a new class. Box will pop up where you put in the start date and the track and hit enter, and that will get entered into the database. It's about halfway down.
All right, so our original project was just encompassing taking care of that questionnaire. One day we were sitting there talking, we realized, how's Alex going to get to all this information? This is about, a couple of weeks ago. And it never come up in conversation before when we were researching it and everything, but we realized that is a really big deal. So Juan and I stepped aside from the rest of the project. We all had our special things to do. Juan and I were actually, the guys. I was, front end and kind of the middle, if you want to call it that. It's part of the back end, but it's not database. Juan was that same area in database. That's kind of, so we decided, take 2 of us, put it together. So we decided, you want to be able to select every single question. So we went with the tab container. And we decided, she could just look at a grid view, but then again, what's the difference from her looking at a grid view as compared to an Excel document? So we wanted to give her a little more, functionality, something a little visible, to show her what's going on with what students answer. I'll let Juan take over that since that was his main part of the reporting page.
We're working on developing some graphs, a different way to present the information. I know from my background in marketing and how I had this conversation as well. Any other way that you can present that, just text on a page. We wanted to develop some graphs. So I worked with Neil. Brought in the charting control in C#. Click on that. See if the part appears.
What's that?
I don't think I got that in the graph.
I don't think it's live.
Okay. But it's something that we're wanting to further develop, and we definitely welcome some input from Alex. What's the best way that we can have this information presented for you, when you're meeting with different potential clients and companies. Obviously for marketing, we're doing with promotions for the advertising for the Centriq. So.
And actually, we decided not to try and push that functionality at this point, because this is just the the 1.0 form of it. Once we get everything that Alex wants after seeing all this, we can add all the functionality. We've already worked on a lot of things, like Juan has all the graphs set up and ready to go. I know I was working on some SQL code behind where through if statements and for eaches and everything, you can update that query string to do whatever you want. So the original plan we had was we were going to have a checkbox field so that she could either choose both the network admin and the web devs, or just one of them. So she could look at both of them, they all appear up there, just web devs, you can only see the answers that they did. The other part that we were really thinking about is, do you want to see it by each class date, or do you want to see a range? So we're currently working on the SQL statement and the way to put it together to where we can have two text boxes with a calendar extender where she can choose where she wants to start the date from, where she wants to end the date from, and put that in the between clause of the SQL statement. You have anything else, Juan?
What you're seeing here that I was playing with is it's kind of like what Greg had on his side. It's an accordion. So what we'll be able to do is, depending on how she wants to see the raw data will probably pop up in another grid or details view, kind of like we had going on with the job finders. So that pane will be really big, and it'll have all the results of all those answers and percentages, however she wants to see it really. And then if she wants to, get more of a visual, we'll be able to pop up a graph pane, and it'll extend. And Juan, I wish you could see it. We don't have anything uploaded to go down. He's already built some great graphs that ties directly into the data that's already there. We've got some test surveys in, and the graph pops up and shows you, also in a physical sense, the results of all these answers. And it looks really, really slick and cool. But unfortunately, we can't show it to you yet. But you get to see it soon if you work here at Centriq. So.
And another thing about the accordion is we have multiple extra panes above and below this too. So if one day there's 5 categories of information she wants to see, that can be dynamically added to with classes. Right now we have class accordion 1, class accordion 2, class accordion 3, and class accordion 4. That way you can actually get those 4 panels. But if there's 5 more things one day, all they have to do is add it in, throw that accordion class on.
Anybody have anything else? Any questions?
Yes.
At the risk of getting too greedy, okay, is there going to be a way for me to export data, something I can print out to look at everything?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, everything that you see here, we'll be able to just kind of zip it up in a PDF.
That's
or
perfect.
something like that.
That's great. This is
Absolutely.
awesome, guys.
Roy?
Back on the initial page that you showed, the survey page, did you do all of the gradients and rounded corners and drop shadows as a static image, or did you use CSS?
Actually, what's the gradients that you see here behind the Centriq Tech Smart KC was actually done just in Paint.net, and I made a rectangular image. Where you see with the corners and shadow and anything like that is pure CSS. Is all that is. Yeah, that wasn't done with the Paint program. That was just done with the CSS. So, also, yeah, something you don't see a lot. I also did text shadow here to kind of make this how we ended up with 3 question marks. I saw some misspelling and some extra question marks. Not sure where they came from. It's the program changes hands a lot. So, yeah. So,
at least it's not blinking. And marquee.
Yeah, I'm surprised there wasn't a blinker marquee that popped up like that somewhere. So, but yeah, you know, there was text shadow to make that look like it's popping off in the image and things like that. I kind of wanted to play with it, see how good we can get it to look.
So basically what you're telling me is my developers that have always told me that it's not possible to do text shadow are wrong, and it is possible, and they just didn't want to do it?
Depending on
It's technically deprecated.
yes,
Which
depends
means
on
it's going to be ruled out.
Alright.
and you're going to see it in HTML5 coming up, which will be more of a standard thing, but it's also going to depend on browser support.
Yes and no.
We're using Firefox to show this to you right now, where it works just fine. If we go to Internet Explorer, you won't see
Yeah.
a text shadow.
Fair enough.
So it depends on the browser support,
Okay.
mostly.
Definitely in the future. It'll
Alright.
be very consistent in the future.
Alright, Ed,
So good deal.
Oh, wait, I'll go next. You had one, right?
I
You
just
had
have
a follow-up?
one quick question.
Yeah.
You said the student has become a master, has become a student again. Can we get together after class or once and show me that charting stuff?
Sure, absolutely.
So I think it goes without saying, but your questions are dynamic based on what's in the database. Yes, this isn't flat. This pulls from whatever questions are put in the admin page in your database, right?
That's right. And that was all Howie and Tyler who did the design on that. It was entirely up to them how that was going to work.
Just as the information can be entered and updated in our job finder project, got all of those drop down lists, the questions, the text in there is dynamic, coming from a database.
From an admin standpoint, we'll probably have to make a grid view so that if they decide that nobody's ever answering Q104 and they want to make that no longer an option, that they can easily take it out without having to go into the database itself. They can just do it through a grid view and take out choices and add choices for this and that. So.
Yeah,
In a minute here, when we get it loaded up, we're going we are going to be having a showcase of launch graphs here, just so everybody knows.
Sorry about that, sir. Go ahead.
All right. This is a database question, and I think you probably already covered this, but I'm going to ask it again. The response is open and the response is fixed. Though the purpose of each one of those.
Open is for the text box questions, where they can type in whatever they want.
So then that would go into like the open answer field.
Right.
Then
And then
the
just the ones that are just a fixed, the ones like the age question or the how did you hear about us, that were more of an ID based, those are going to go into their own table. Just wait you could have been all
the
one table.
response is fixed.
Yeah, it could have been all one table. We decided that's better to kind of separate them out. Yeah.
That first question then,
Yeah.
that has all the check boxes, where'd you hear about us?
Yep.
Which one would you put that in?
The text boxes that go through 4H go into fixed. If other is checked and they have text, that is its own separate question in the questions table, and that would answer actually would go into.
That's like a question too.
Yeah.
In the world of the database, it's its own question.
Yeah.
On the form, it looks like it's part of the question.
And in the questions table, the text is other response or question 1.
So if you had 3 check boxes on that first question, how many records would you find in responses fixed?
3. There would be one each. It would have the student ID 27, question 1, answer 3, and then student ID, same question, and different response. So you could have none, you could have 1, you could have all 7.
That
And
goes
each
back to
one's its own
that
record.
first normal form again. We wanted to grow the database lengthwise instead of widthwise.
I just want to make sure you weren't trying to concatenate those together in
No,
some text
no.
field. And try to
No,
split.
We would have shot him a long time ago.
This is the light show portion of the presentation.
Disco.
Easter egg.
This other part comes in. Back serious again.
All right, so here's the chart. You know, part of the fun with this was that there are an awful lot of different kinds of charts that you can use. So this is a fairly complicated SQL statement. I owe quite a debt of gratitude to Neil for helping me figure this out. Not as simple as some of the SQL statements we were dealing with earlier to look at the table of responses and count those and return the value. You know, I found, again, part of the research aspect that really appealed to me about coming to Centriq, I was really put to use here, getting online, finding a tutorial about how to use graphs. This is just going to my local version of the database on my laptop, which is why kind of the numbers are limited. But once this goes to the live database, you see the different examples. Actually made this work. There were no responses in the age categories of 36 to 45, 46 to 55, and nobody 66 and over. The way I got to show no data was using a coalesce function in SQL because there was no values there. So I just had that return that value back to the graph, the chart, to display that. So and then we actually going to scroll down and then this is how we were showing it. So what was ranked first was a tie. Everybody said that these were the things that were their favorite: the training short time, college degree not required, interest in computer technology. Just going on one more. You see a little bit different. Then I had these had that count order by to show what the most responses were. So Alex, we'll do some graphs like this so you can, again, it's just a more another way to show the data to you know, potential students, you know, potential clients, you know, about
Your boss.
Your boss.
And it's kind of cool, Alex, because those get pulled off as images. You can literally drag them and drop them off of the page and have the bitmap.
It will be part of that PDF file that she can pull down and print off.
That's impressive.
It was a lot of fun playing with those charts. Also a lot of banging my head against the wall.
I think we all did a little bit
Yeah.
of that one.
Any more questions?
So is it fair to say that what was a pretty innocuous beginning to this?
This is on paper. Why didn't it just go into